Have you ever felt like no matter how much you do, how much you buy, or how well you plan, something still feels off? Like your life is filled to the brim, yet you're missing something essential? In the West, we're taught that more is better, more success, more stuff, more speed. But what if the real key to peace and fulfillment isn't in adding more, but in learning to let go? Japanese minimalism offers a radically different path, one that Western culture often overlooks. It's not just about sleek interiors or owning fewer things. It's a quiet, intentional philosophy that reshapes how you think, live, and feel. At its core, it invites you to question what truly matters, to strip away the noise, and to find beauty in the space between things. It's a way of living that prioritizes meaning over material, presence over pressure. In this video, I'm going to share 7 hidden lessons from Japanese minimalism ideas, so simple yet so powerful. They can completely transform your relationship with your surroundings, your habits, and even yourself. These aren't quick fixes or aesthetic tips. They're mindset shifts that Western culture rarely teaches, but desperately needs. Let's begin this journey by uncovering the first lesson one that might just change the way you see everything. Lesson 1. Emptiness is not absence, it's presence. In Western culture, we often equate empty spaces with something lacking, something incomplete. A blank wall seems unfinished. A quiet moment feels unproductive. But in Japanese minimalism, emptiness, what they call ma, is not a void. It's a meaningful pause. It's space created with intention. And this might be one of the most misunderstood ideas in the West. In Japan, ema is the silence between musical notes, the space between objects on a shelf, or the quiet moment between 2 sentences. It isn't accidental, it's designed. It's an active choice to allow things to breathe. This sense of space brings calm, clarity, and awareness. It draws your attention to what's truly there instead of overwhelming your senses with clutter, noise, or visual chaos. But how does this concept apply to our lives? It means that not every corner of your room needs to be filled. Not every hour of your day needs to be booked, and not every thought in your mind needs a reaction. Emptiness, when embraced intentionally, becomes a tool for presence and peace. It allows room for reflection, rest, and emotional reset. Western homes often prioritize function and decoration. We fill walls with art, countertops with appliances, and closets with just-in-case items. Japanese minimalism teaches us that it's okay for a room to be quiet. It's okay for a wall to be bare. In fact, these open spaces can actually heighten the beauty of the few items we choose to keep. They give significance to what remains. The same goes for time. In a culture that praises hustle and non-stop productivity, carving out empty time might feel uncomfortable or even wasteful. But what if those empty moments are exactly what we need? What if a few minutes of stillness could help us reset our thoughts, reduce anxiety, and come back to our priorities with more clarity? Japanese minimalism shows us that space isn't something we need to fill, it's something we need to protect. Even in relationships, this lesson holds true. In the West, we often feel pressured to stay connected, constant texts, calls, notifications. But silence doesn't always mean distance. In Japanese culture, comfortable silence between people is a sign of trust, not awkwardness. It's okay to just be without performing, without explaining. Emptiness teaches us patience. It asks us to slow down. It reminds us that not everything needs to be solved, filled, or finished immediately. A clear desk, a quiet evening, a moment without a phone, these aren't gaps to be fixed. They're opportunities to reconnect with yourself. By learning to value emptiness, we learn to value space, not just the physical space around us, but the emotional and mental space within us. And in doing so, we begin to feel less crowded, less overstimulated, and more in tune with what really matters. This idea might feel foreign at first, especially if you've grown up believing that more is always better. But once you experience the lightness that comes from letting space exist without guilt, without rushing, you'll understand why this lesson is so powerful, and why Western culture has so much to gain from it. Lesson 2. Purpose gives meaning to everything. One of the most overlooked ideas in Western culture is the belief that everything we own, everything we do, should have a purpose. In Japanese minimalism, this isn't just a guideline, it's a core principle. Every object, every habit, every moment is intentional. And when something no longer serves a purpose, it's gently released. In the West, we often hold on to things out of sentiment, habit, or the fear that we might need them someday. Drawers overflow, closets fill up, and routines become automatic. We rarely stop to ask, why is this here? Why am I doing this? Japanese minimalism invites us to pause and examine the purpose behind what we allow into our space and our lives. This isn't about being utilitarian or strict, it's about alignment. A cup in a Japanese home isn't just a cup, it's chosen for how it feels in the hand, the beauty of its design, the memory it carries. Its presence is intentional. The same applies to the way a room is arranged, the way a day is structured, or the way a meal is prepared. Nothing is random. Everything supports a deeper sense of meaning. When you start to apply this mindset, you begin to see your own life differently. You ask questions before making a purchase. You consider the real value of your time. You choose your relationships more carefully. And in doing so, life becomes more clear, more manageable, and ironically more full, even with less. The Western idea of just in case can create clutter, not just in your home, but in your mind. Carrying what you don't need adds weight physically and emotionally. But when everything has a reason to exist, you feel lighter. Decisions become easier, your environment becomes a place of clarity rather than confusion. You begin to trust yourself more because your surroundings reflect conscious choices, not accumulated chaos. Purpose also invites gratitude. When you know why something is part of your life, you value it more. A chair becomes more than furniture, it becomes a space for rest. A book isn't just decor, it's a source of growth. This shift in mindset turns the ordinary into the meaningful, and that meaning adds depth to everyday life. In Japanese minimalism, function is not just about use, it's about contribution. How does this item, this action, this habit contribute to your well-being, your clarity, your peace? If the answer isn't clear, then maybe it's time to let it go. Lesson 3. Organizing is a way of honoring yourself. In many Western households, organizing is seen as a chore, something tedious, and often postponed until it becomes overwhelming. But in Japanese minimalism, organizing holds a very different meaning. It's not simply about putting things in order, it's a conscious, meaningful act of self-respect. It's a way to express care for your environment, your mental clarity, and your emotional well-being. This mindset is deeply rooted in the belief that your surroundings reflect your inner world. A cluttered room can mirror a cluttered mind. A messy drawer can reflect postponed decisions or emotional heaviness. But when you take the time to organize, not just clean, you're sending a message to yourself. I deserve to live in a space that feels peaceful and intentional. Japanese culture embraces this idea at every level. From the layout of traditional homes to the rituals of daily life, organizing is treated as a mindful practice. There's a quiet reverence to folding clothes, aligning objects on a shelf, or preparing a meal with precision. These are not empty gestures, they are expressions of presence. In this way, organizing transforms from something external into something deeply personal. What's powerful about this lesson is that it shifts your relationship with your space. Instead of fighting the mess, you begin to listen to it. What is it telling you? What's been neglected or avoided? When we approach organizing with curiosity instead of frustration, we unlock its emotional power. We don't just rearrange things, we realign our lives. This perspective also encourages us to slow down. In a fast-paced world, we often seek efficiency, multitasking, and quick solutions. But Japanese minimalism teaches that organizing is not something to rush. It's a process of reflection. As you sort through your belongings, you're also sorting through your thoughts, values, and priorities. You're deciding what stays with you and what no longer fits who you are. And here's something Western culture often misses: the importance of detail. In Japan, even the smallest acts of organization are done with care. Folding a towel neatly, placing shoes precisely by the door. These little rituals create rhythm, grounding, and gratitude. They remind us that our lives are built on small moments, and that how we treat those moments shapes how we experience each day. Organizing also helps reduce decision fatigue. When your space is ordered, you're not constantly distracted by visual noise or searching for what you need. Your home becomes a place of calm rather than a source of stress. And when your surroundings are aligned, your mind can relax. This creates room for creativity, rest, and meaningful connection. Most importantly, this lesson teaches us that our environment is not separate from us, it's a mirror. When we treat our space with kindness and attention, we begin to treat ourselves the same way. And over time, that simple act of organizing becomes a form of healing, a reminder that you are worthy of clarity, calm, and care. Lesson 4. Doing less can restore your peace. In a culture where busyness is often worn as a badge of honor, the idea of slowing down can feel almost rebellious. But in Japanese minimalism, the power of doing less is not just acknowledged, it's revered. It's a practice of simplification, not out of laziness or lack of ambition, but as a path to clarity, peace, and emotional well-being. The Western mindset often links value with output. The more we do, the more we achieve, the more successful we feel. But this constant striving comes at a cost. Our days become crowded with obligations, our minds overwhelmed with noise, and our attention scattered in 1,000 directions. Japanese minimalism offers a different path, one that prioritizes quality over quantity, focus over frenzy. Doing less begins with asking a simple question: what truly deserves my time and energy? It's not about abandoning responsibilities, but about being intentional with how we spend our hours. In Japan, simplicity is seen as a way to reduce mental friction. From pared-down interiors to streamlined daily routines, everything is designed to minimize distractions and maximize peace. Imagine waking up in a space that feels calm, not because it's empty, but because everything within it is intentional. There's no chaos to tame, no clutter to fight. The absence of excess creates room for stillness. And in that stillness, something powerful happens. Your mind begins to rest. Your nervous system resets. You begin to feel present. This practice also reshapes how we view productivity. In the West, productivity is often measured by how much we accomplish in a short amount of time. But Japanese minimalism invites us to redefine success. Instead of rushing through our to-do lists, we're encouraged to slow down and do each task with full presence. Whether it's preparing a cup of tea, writing an email, or walking to the store, every action becomes an opportunity to be mindful. Doing less also creates emotional space. When we're constantly overstimulated, we lose touch with how we actually feel. But when we remove the noise, whether it's physical clutter, digital overload, or social pressure, we begin to reconnect with ourselves. We start to notice the small joys we'd normally overlook: a quiet morning, a thoughtful conversation, a moment of laughter. These are the experiences that restore us. In Japanese culture, this simplicity is woven into everyday life. There's no pressure to fill silence or overcomplicate moments. Stillness is not seen as emptiness, but as richness. Slowing down is not a weakness, it's wisdom. And when we give ourselves permission to do less, we often find that what remains is more than enough. This lesson is especially powerful for those who feel constantly overwhelmed. The truth is, peace doesn't come from doing more. It comes from letting go of what doesn't matter. By embracing this quieter, more focused way of living, we create space for clarity, intention, and joy. Lesson 5. Nature is not decoration, it's restoration. In Western design and daily life, nature is often treated as an aesthetic touch, something to be admired from a distance or added to a space for visual balance. But in Japanese minimalism, nature is not a background feature, it's an essential presence. It plays an active, restorative role in both the external environment and the internal experience of peace. This deep connection with nature is woven through nearly every aspect of traditional Japanese life. Homes are designed not to shut nature out, but to let it in through open windows, sliding doors, and inner courtyards. These elements don't just provide beauty, they create a living dialogue between the human space and the natural world. It's a reminder that we are not separate from nature, but part of it. In Japanese minimalism, simplicity and serenity are often inspired by natural elements: wood, stone, water, light. These materials aren't polished to perfection. They're celebrated in their natural state, with all their imperfections and texture. The philosophy behind this is subtle but powerful. Nature doesn't need to be controlled to be valuable. It just needs to be respected. This lesson invites us to reconsider how we relate to the natural world in our everyday lives. It doesn't require a mountain retreat or a bamboo forest outside your window. It could be as simple as opening the blinds in the morning to let in natural light, placing a single plant on your desk, stepping outside for 5 minutes of quiet instead of scrolling through your phone. These small acts reconnect us with something timeless and calming. Western lifestyles often keep us indoors under artificial light, surrounded by noise and stimulation. Over time, this disconnection from nature dulls our senses and drains our energy. Japanese minimalism gently leads us back outside, even in small, quiet ways. It teaches us that even the sound of rain or the feel of sunlight on the skin can be grounding. These are not luxuries, they're essential for our emotional balance. Nature also teaches us how to live with acceptance. The changing seasons are not resisted, they're embraced. In Japan, each season is celebrated through rituals, food, and design. This reinforces the idea that life is always in motion, always changing, and that peace comes not from control, but from flow. Western culture often clings to permanence and perfection, but Japanese wisdom shows us the power of letting life unfold naturally. Even the act of bringing natural rhythm into our day, waking with the light, winding down at dusk, can shift our internal state. When we align ourselves with nature, we stop fighting time, we stop rushing, and instead, we begin to live in tune with something much deeper, something healing. This hidden lesson reminds us that minimalism isn't just about what we remove, but about what we return to. Nature isn't a background scene, it's a quiet teacher. One that helps us slow down, soften, and see clearly again. Lesson 6. Letting go creates space for peace. In Western culture, we often associate holding on with strength. We cling to objects, relationships, routines, not necessarily because they serve us, but because they feel familiar. Japanese minimalism challenges this mindset with a gentle but powerful truth. Real peace often begins the moment we choose to let go. This doesn't just mean decluttering your closet or tossing out old furniture. It means recognizing what no longer supports your well-being and having the courage to release it. In Japanese philosophy, letting go is not seen as loss, it's seen as liberation. It's a conscious act of making space, both physically and emotionally, for something more meaningful. Letting go starts with awareness. It requires asking hard questions. Why am I keeping this? Does it still serve me? These questions aren't just about stuff, they're about beliefs, habits, even identities. And when we pause to ask them honestly, we often realize we've been holding on to more than we need, more than we can carry. In Japan, this lesson is reflected in everyday practice. Spaces are kept open, flexible, unburdened by excess. Objects are cherished, not because they're numerous, but because they're necessary and loved. This is not about living with nothing, it's about living with intention. And part of that intention means knowing when to let go. When we release what no longer serves us, something shifts. The noise quiets, the mental weight lifts. We begin to breathe more deeply. Our focus sharpens. Life becomes less about maintaining the unnecessary and more about experiencing the essential. And it's in that essential space that clarity and peace naturally arise. Western culture often glorifies accumulation of achievements, possessions, even connections. But what if fulfillment isn't found in more, but in less? What if the things we cling to out of fear or habit are actually standing in the way of our growth? Letting go also creates emotional openness. When our lives are too full of clutter, commitments, or unresolved feelings, we lose the ability to connect authentically. By clearing space, we make room for healing, for rest, for deeper relationships and moments that nourish us instead of draining us. This process is not about being cold or detached. It's about being honest. It's about recognizing that some things have already served their purpose and that it's okay to thank them and then let them go. In Japanese culture, even discarded items are treated with respect. There's an understanding that everything has its time, that everything and everyone can be released with grace. This lesson also reminds us that freedom isn't just about what we gain, it's about what we no longer carry. And that lightness can transform how we move through life, how we show up for ourselves, and for the world around us. Letting go is not easy, but it is powerful. And perhaps it's the most important step toward living with clarity, simplicity, and peace. Lesson 7. Simplicity reveals what truly matters. We live in a world filled with noise, constant updates, endless comparisons, and a growing pressure to always be more, do more, and have more. But Japanese minimalism offers a quiet alternative: simplicity. And not just as an aesthetic choice, but as a path back to what actually matters. This final lesson invites us to look beneath the surface of our lives, not at what's visible, but at what's essential. In Western culture, success is often measured by accumulation. But in Japan, wisdom is found in refinement. It's not about how much you can carry, it's about how carefully you choose what's worth carrying. When we begin to strip away the layers of excess, of distraction, of expectation, what we're left with is the core of who we are. And for many, that moment of clarity can be life-changing, because simplicity doesn't just empty the shelves, it clears the mind, it softens the heart. It reminds us that happiness isn't hidden in more, but in enough. This lesson also teaches us that clarity doesn't require grand gestures. Sometimes it's found in a quiet morning, a single meaningful conversation, or the stillness between activities. Japanese minimalism celebrates these in-between spaces. It doesn't seek to fill every second or every room, it honors what remains, when we stop chasing what's unnecessary. In the West, it's easy to become defined by roles, routines, or the things we possess. But this philosophy encourages a shift in identity not based on what we consume, but on what we value. It allows us to slow down and ask, who am I without all the noise, without the comparison, without the clutter? And perhaps that's the deepest hidden lesson of all, that peace doesn't come from reaching outward, it comes from returning inward. As we close this journey through the hidden wisdom of Japanese minimalism, I invite you to take a moment, breathe, reflect. Which lesson stayed with you? Was it the idea that everything should have a purpose? The reminder to reconnect with nature? The gentle call to let go of what no longer serves you? These 7 lessons aren't rules, they're invitations. Not to follow a trend, but to live with more intention. Not to strive for perfection, but to create a life that feels meaningful, calm, and real. And maybe that begins with something simple. Removing one item from your home that no longer brings you joy. Saying no to a commitment that drains you. Taking a quiet walk without your phone. Or just sitting, doing nothing, and remembering you are enough, even without the noise. If this video resonated with you, I'd love to hear which lesson spoke the loudest. Leave a comment below, I read everyone. And if you found value in this message, please give the video a like and share it with someone who might need this gentle reminder too. Because sometimes the smallest shift in perspective can open the door to a life filled with more clarity, more peace, and more of what truly matters.